There's a ton of fun characters to play in Marvel Rivals, so today why don't we go over just one quick tip on how to better play each character. Adam Warlock. You have more time to use Adam Warlock's ultimate than you might think, and some people don't completely understand how it works. You can cast it out of the way in a safe location, and then you can see that as you walk, you have a large golden radius surrounding your character. Any dead ally within your golden radius will be immediately respawned in your ult's original anchor location. The anchor location also lasts for around 12 seconds, give or take, so you have way more time using this than you might think, and you can take your time to drop it in a better location. Black Panther. Black Panther is a fast, crazy, and fun character, but don't make the mistake of thinking that he's the type of hero who should be diving straight in no matter what is happening. Be patient, and after you've mastered his combos at the practice range, try to use wall climbing and general game sense to wait for the right time to dive in. Then dive in, hard target the squishy support players, then dive out. You may also want to think about potentially increasing your mouse or controller sensitivity for just Black Panther, just because of how frequently you need to whip his POV back and forth in combat. Black Widow. Before the match begins, remember that you can go back into the character selection menu and instead pick Hawkeye. Not for real. Don't be afraid to hip fire. Even though her weapon is a sniper rifle, which is practically begging players to zoom in, it can still do the same amount of damage via hip fire. Sure, go ahead and scope in if they're far away, but don't be afraid to just let it go from the hip if they're up close. You can also combo this together with her Edge Dancer ability by following up her grapple attack with a mid-air hip fire shot for extra damage. Captain America. If you're trying to learn how to play Cap effectively, you should imagine yourself as less of a tank and more of a professional harasser. Try to target isolated or vulnerable characters, and then when the enemy turns around collectively to help them, stop attacking and now focus on tanking damage and staying alive. Hold the enemy team's attention, hopefully allowing for your team to take advantage of the fact that all of the enemy's eyes are on you. If and when you begin to get overwhelmed, then get the heck out of there, heal up, and get back in to isolate and start harassing vulnerable heroes all over again. Cloak and Dagger. Cloak's dark teleportation attack gives yourself, as well as nearby teammates, temporary iframes. That means that with very good timing, you can protect your entire team from taking any damage against certain enemy ultimates like Iron Man or Magneto. Doctor Strange. When fighting up close, always remember to attack first with your projectile attack, then immediately follow up with your melee. Strange's projectile attack is very slow, so adding the melee in between projectiles is basically free, and there's no reason that you shouldn't do it. The melee doesn't hit very hard, but free damage is free damage, and you also build up your dark magic charges faster. It's a win-win, really. Groot. Groot's Ironwood wall is a great way for him to get bonus health, and yet so many Groot players out there throw it up right in front of the entire enemy team only to get shot down in 1 second. When learning Groot, hide your Ironwood wall out of the way where the enemy team can't find it right away. As long as you're relatively near to the wall, you'll get the bonus healing and become much more difficult to kill. Hawkeye. When using Hawkeye's ultimate, Hunter's Sight, all damage dealt to the after images are transferred to the corresponding enemy. Don't waste time by trying to lock up headshots on those after images. All damage dealt will be received by the target as headshot damage anyway. Therefore, just spam body shots on the after image as quickly as you can to really dish out the damage effectively. Hela. Hela's ultimate is actually one of the better counters in the game to Jeff the Landshark's ultimate, which can single-handedly win games. If Jeff is using his ultimate, even if you see his circle of water underneath your feet, by activating Hela's ultimate, you can not only completely avoid getting swallowed up in the attack, but you can also blast and kill Jeff easy, shutting down one of his most powerful tools. Hulk. Hulk's second ultimate, which upgrades you into Monster Hulk, will both automatically give you iframes as well as instantly replenish all of your health to maximum when activated. Therefore, don't activate Monster Hulk mode if you're already at full health. Fight the enemy as much as you can until they're just about to kill you, then activate your ult and insta-replenish all your health immediately. Iron Fist. Iron Fist's Harmony recovery ability can allow him to regenerate health, but don't think of it as something you should only use when you're weak in order to recover. After all, your team should have healers which can help you with that. Instead, use your recovery move before going in for a flank. If you do this at full health, you'll get some extra bonus health. It's not much, but considering you're a melee character, being even just a tiny bit tankier before charging in can go a long way. Iron Man. You have one of the hardest hitting ultimates in the entire game, but always be wary of any enemy Doctor Stranges on the battlefield, as they can completely neutralize your attack with their regular shield. You have a few options to get around this. Wait until the enemy Doctor Strange is dead before firing. Wait until the enemy Doctor Strange is distracted or entangled by another CC attack before firing. Or flank the enemy team with an angle they aren't expecting and try to fire it behind Doctor Strange, who may be holding his shield the wrong way. Jeff the Land Shark. I'm giving this tip because I'm really hoping that in the near future, Jeff's ultimate will get adjusted. But in the meantime, you don't always have to sacrifice yourself by going off the map if you've swallowed up the entire team. By going to a nearby ledge and spinning enemies out and down, you can usually get the same result. It's important though to take note of what heroes can easily recover after being sucked up and what heroes can't. For example, heroes like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Rocket Raccoon can recover pretty easy, and you may have to take them off the map with you to ensure they don't come back. Meanwhile, heroes like Adam Warlock, Mantis, and enemy Jeff players can't really fly back to the ledge and can be safely patooied off into the night. Loki. If you want to be a good Loki main, you should really test out every hero's ultimate in the practice range at least one time so you know how they all work. Because Loki can copy any ultimate from either an enemy or a teammate, you have your pick of the litter. But if you've never played or tried out a bunch of other heroes, you may feel like a fish out of water and mess up the play. Try to fiddle around with other heroes to understand how they work, and that way when you copy them mid-game, you'll know exactly what you're doing right away. Here's a few heroes with good ultimates that Loki should prioritize copying if they can. Jeff the Land Shark, Iron Man, Luna Snow, Adam Warlock, Cloak and Dagger, Storm, Doctor Strange, and the Punisher. Luna Snow. This may get patched in the future, but while using her ultimate, Luna can swap back and forth rapidly between both the heal boost and the damage boost, and essentially apply both effects to her teammates at the same time. You can either do this by mashing the change performance button repeatedly, or you can go into your settings and map it to scrolling up or down on your mouse wheel if you happen to play on mouse and keyboard. Magik. Magik has a few combos that you should try to commit to memory if you want to play her. Here's two for you to try out. First up, Soul Sword, default melee, Magic Slash, Soul Sword, default melee again. That combo can basically kill lower health characters very quickly if you get the timing down well enough. Here's another, Portal into Eldritch Whirl, into Umbral Incursion, into Soul Sword, into default melee. You'll launch the enemy up, then finish them in the air. Be warned though, when using this, if you whiff your Umbral Incursion, you may just dive deeper into the enemy team's backline and get effed up. If you're worried about whiffing that lunge attack, you can always just do Magic Slash from afar, then Umbral Incursion into Soul Sword into default melee. Magneto. Magneto has one of the best team-up abilities in the entire game. Even if you don't plan on maining him, go into the practice range and try to get a base understanding of how he works. That way, if you ever hop into a match and see that a teammate is playing Scarlet Witch, you can now take advantage of that godly team-up ability and spam projectile attacks every 30 seconds via his powered-up sword. Mantis. After landing a sleep bomb attack, you actually have more time to react than you think. Don't panic after landing a sleep bomb on an enemy. Just relax and pop your natural anger ability before lining up a headshot. If you're on the microphone with homies, you can also tell your teammates to join you in ganging up on Sleeping Beauty if they happen to be nearby. Moon Knight. Try to be sneaky about where and when you're dropping your onks. If you drop one on the enemy team and they can see you doing it and you're really putting it just right in front of them, then yeah, they're probably going to break it right away. Try to really take a look around the map and try to find a clever location where you can drop an onk that the enemy team might not see right away. Walls, ceilings, or anywhere near a choke point, or basically anywhere not immediately visible, will let you rack up way more damage most of the time. Namor. Because the octopi turrets have such a short duration, don't deploy them if there's a lull in combat and no enemies are visible on the field. Wait for the enemy team to just start approaching, then spam both onto the battlefield and immediately follow up with your Wrath of the Seven Seas attack to ensure you're getting the most out of your turrets. Peni Parker. Naturally, you should be trying to put your spider nest in difficult to see locations to make sure that enemy players have a harder time finding and shooting and breaking it. That being said, if you reach a lull in combat, i.e. the enemy team is mostly dead and respawning, take that as a free opportunity to reposition and move your nest to a new location. Especially if you're doing the convoy game mode, you might not need to do that on domination. Psylocke. Psylocke's primary weapon fire is quite strong, but combining it together with her shurikens is where you can get some really big damage on an unsuspecting target. Remember that her shurikens both go out and then can be recalled, and hitting the enemy with either deals good damage. Combo them together by first holding down the button for your primary weapon fire, then quickly hitting the shuriken button twice to both send them out and call them back very fast. Because you're holding the primary weapon button, you'll essentially be doing all this damage at the same time, and you can really nail an unsuspecting player after they've been flanked. Punisher. I see a lot of new players using Punisher's turret ability, but 90% of the time, I'd say, I feel like it's a beginner player trap. Don't get me wrong, the Punisher's turret can do well in certain situations where your team is playing defensively, but for the vast majority of the time, you're going to be way deadlier learning to master just swapping between your two primary weapons based on how far away the enemy is. Punisher is an easy counter pick option anytime the enemy team is rocking Star-Lord or especially Iron Man, so consider swapping over to him if you notice the enemy is rocking one or both. Rocket Raccoon. If you notice that the enemy team is ripe with characters who specialize in surprise flanking like Spider-Man or Psylocke, then try your best to save your jetpack dash for emergencies only. That way, the next time the enemy duelist pops in out of nowhere to try and gank you, you can immediately GTFO while telling your team to turn around and help you out. Also be sure to practice your wall running in combination with your jetpacking. Rocket can be really hard to pin down, and his overall slippery factor is one of his best features. Scarlet Witch. If you have a friend who plays Magneto, or you have a random on your team in quick play picking Magneto, learning how to play Scarlet Witch as a backup duelist character is a great idea. As mentioned earlier, Scarlet Witch's free upgrade to Magneto's sword is incredible, but Magneto gives Scarlet Witch a much needed helping hand too. Scarlet Witch's ultimate deals insane damage, but it takes so much time to detonate that she'll often die before pulling it off. If you have Magneto on the team, he can put a bubble on Scarlet Witch after she begins to activate her ult, giving her a much better chance of actually surviving to see it detonate. Also, if you can, try to fly up above the enemy team when activating your ult, just so you give yourself another second or so before the enemy team starts to target you hardcore. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is an incredibly squishy melee fighter, so not only do you need to be a master of getting in and getting out of combat, but you should know some basic combos as well. Combo A. Apply Tracer into Get Over Here, into Amazing Combo, aka the uppercut, into Punch ×2. Combo B. Apply Tracer into Get Over Here, into Punch ×1, into Apply Tracer, into Amazing Combo, aka the uppercut. And if you want to pull someone from the enemy team over to you, Combo C. Get Over Here into Punch ×1, into Apply Tracer, into Amazing Combo, aka the uppercut, into Apply Tracer, into Punch ×1. Squirrel Girl. If you've played a bunch of other heroes before trying Squirrel Girl, you may have conditioned yourself to always aim for headshots whenever you can. However, Squirrel Girl doesn't really care about that. Try to aim your shots around your enemy's feet with her primary attack. Her shots explode with AoE damage, and you'll be much more consistent with your damage dealing overall. Star-Lord. While you can use Star-Lord's rocket propulsion ability to try and get to the high ground and take your enemy by surprise with new angles, remember that you can also simply just double tap the button mid-combat for kind of a junior dodge in any direction. It's not much, but it can help you be a little harder to pin down in combat, which is nice. Storm. Storm can fly into the air whenever she wants to for free, but just because you can do that doesn't mean that you always should. Her primary attack, Windblade, can penetrate targets, which is extremely unlikely to happen if you're attacking enemies from a way more vertical angle. Go ahead and float up if you want to get tricky and take people off guard, but you don't have to live up there. Being at the ground level means your primary attacks are more likely to penetrate multiple targets if they're all clumped up together. And you can still float up into the air if you need to GTFO out of any given situation. Thor. A very common and effective engagement tactic for Thor is dash forward to close the gap on an enemy, then prioritize getting back up to maximum Thor force. You can do this by landing melee attacks, or you can use your Lightning Realm ability if you're very low on Thor force and happen to be near a few enemies. If you're full on Thor force, you can use your Awakened mode to immediately damage and rip apart the nearest squishy enemy with good, heavy, ranged lightning attacks. Also remember that using any Thor force ability will give you extra health, so you're a bit more tanky than you might think. Venom. If you want to learn to play Venom, I recommend going into your settings, going to keyboard or controller, then picking options for Venom, then go down and turning Easy Swing off. Easy Swing will target the nearest swingable surface if you try to use Venom's swing ability, and while it is easier and requires less thought, I think turning that setting off will be way better for most players in the long run. Because it does the work for you, you're more likely to swing into a bad situation or swing at a bad angle, and you have less control of your movement overall, which we don't want. With the Easy Swing turned off, you have to actually look at and aim where you want to swing to, and while that can be a headache, you'll get a much better feel for Venom's movement overall. Winter Soldier. While learning Winter Soldier, I highly recommend you go into the practice range and fiddle with your in-game sensitivity. If you can consistently land shots with Bucky, he's one of the best damage dealers in the game. However, that can be really challenging with only 3 in the mag. If you're struggling to land hits consistently, try lowering your in-game sensitivity on the character until you get to a point where it feels much easier for you to land shots from mid to long range on a moving target. Also, try to get into the habit of firing your 3 shots, then maybe using one of your abilities, which will then auto-load Bucky's gun. Wolverine. Remember that while you can use your feral leap attack to dive into the fray and target a character in particular, you can also use your feral leap attack point blank to basically kidnap an enemy, for lack of a better term. You can try using this to yoink an enemy player back in the direction of your team, where hopefully you and your crew can immediately gang up on them, or at least you can just separate one person from the herd before going to town. If you missed it, be sure to check out my vid of what your Marvel Rivals main says about you. I had a lot of fun making it, and I'm sure you'll get a kick out of it too. Also, if you have any additional tips that you think would help players pick up a new character faster, let me know what they are down in the comment section. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!